The moment they replaced you, they thought they had won. What they don't realize is that they just lost something they'll never find again. They believed they could trade you in like an old toy or swap you out like a worn-out pair of shoes. But let me tell you something. What they replaced you with is not an upgrade. It's a temporary distraction. By the time they figure that out, you'll be long gone, living a life they'll regret walking away from. Before we go deeper, do me a favor. Hit that like button, subscribe, and stay with me. Today, we're not just talking about being replaced. We're talking about ensuring they never forget what they lost. Imagine this. You walk into a fancy restaurant, sit down at a table, and order your usual. Something rich, something rare, something made for those who know its value. But one day, you switch it up. You pick something cheap, something easy, something everyone else orders. At first, it seems fine. It's convenient. It's different. But then you start missing the real thing, the depth, the richness, the quality. It's gone, and no matter how much you try to convince yourself otherwise, you know deep down you made a mistake. That's exactly how people work. They don't appreciate what's always been there until it's gone. They take you for granted, thinking you'll always be an option. The second they think they can replace you, that's when they lose the most valuable thing they ever had. I know what you're thinking. Why did they replace me? What did they see in someone else that I didn't have? Let me tell you something. This was never about you lacking anything. This was about them not knowing your worth. You don't blame the masterpiece when a fool can't see its value. You don't get upset when a child trades a diamond for a shiny rock. You let them learn the hard way, because here's the truth they don't want you to know. Replacements don't last. New distractions fade, the excitement wears off, and one day, when they're sitting there with the better option they thought they found, they'll feel that empty space where you used to be, and nothing they do will ever fill it. Let me make one thing clear. Your job isn't to sit around waiting for that day to come. Don't waste time wondering when they'll regret it. Make sure that by the time they do, you don't even care. While they're out there thinking they won, you're out here leveling up, evolving, becoming someone they'll never have access to again. Here's the thing. They expected you to cry. They expected you to break, to chase, to beg for their attention. But the moment you do the unexpected, the moment you go silent, the moment you stop caring, that's when the game flips. That's when regret starts creeping in. Nothing messes with someone more than realizing they had something real and threw it away for nothing. Nothing haunts a person more than knowing the best version of you is no longer available to them. So, my friends, let's make this clear. No chasing, no proving, no waiting, just silence, self-respect, and growth. Say it with me. I am irreplaceable. Write it in the comments. Show them, show yourself, show the world that you are done being an option. Now hit that like button, subscribe, and stay with me, because what's coming next will ensure they never stop thinking about what they lost. Asterisk, asterisk. Number 1. Replacements are downgrades, not upgrades. They didn't trade up, they traded comfort for chaos. They thought they found something better, something shinier, something new. But here's the truth. They didn't upgrade, they didn't level up. They just ran towards something that looked easy, something that felt exciting for a moment. By the time they realize the difference, by the time they understand what they walked away from, it'll be too late. Imagine a man standing in a jewelry store. In his hands, he holds a diamond, solid, rare, valuable. But then, out of the corner of his eye, he sees something else. A flashy rock that sparkles under the store lights. It catches his attention. It's new, different, tempting. So he makes a choice. He tosses the diamond aside and grabs the rock. At first he feels satisfied, convinced he made the right move. But then the shine starts to fade. The surface cracks, and that's when it hits him. He didn't trade up. He got fooled by something that only looked better. Now the diamond is gone. That's exactly what happens when someone replaces you. They weren't looking for something better. They were looking for something easier, because real value requires effort. Real connection takes time. But distractions are quick, effortless, and feel like shortcuts. That's why they made their choice. Not because you weren't enough or because you lacked anything, but because they didn't have the wisdom to recognize what was in front of them. I know what you're thinking. What if they're truly happy with someone else? What if I was the problem? What if I wasn't good enough? That fear, that doubt, it's exactly what keeps people trapped. They believe the lie that if someone replaces them, it must mean they weren't valuable in the first place. But let's break that lie right now. A fool can't recognize a masterpiece. A child will trade a Picasso for a coloring book. A person who doesn't understand loyalty will always chase the next thrill. But that doesn't make the masterpiece worthless. That doesn't make the diamond any less rare. It only proves one thing. The person who gave it up was never ready for it in the first place. Let's be honest. This realization doesn't always come easy. Deep down, you wanted to be the one they'd never leave, the one they'd never replace. And when they did, it shook you. It made you question yourself. Because what's more painful than being told without words that you weren't enough? But listen closely. That pain is a lie, a trick of the mind, a cruel illusion. Their decision had nothing to do with your worth. It had everything to do with their own blindness, their own impatience, their own inability to value something real. And do you know what's coming next? Regret. Because replacements always come with comparisons. When they compare, they'll remember the depth you had, the security you gave, the loyalty you showed. That new thing they ran to won't match up. It can't match up. Because when you replace something rare with something common, the difference is impossible to ignore. At first, they'll pretend they don't notice. They'll act like they're happier than ever. They'll post pictures, flash smiles, and try to convince the world and themselves that they made the right choice. But late at night, when they're alone with their thoughts, the doubts will creep in. They'll replay memories. They'll start to wonder, did I make a mistake? And by the time they realize the truth, by the time they feel the loss, you'll be miles ahead, unreachable, unbothered, no longer available to be an option. Here's where you flip the script. Here's where you reclaim your power. You don't sit around waiting for their regret. You don't check to see if they miss you. You don't waste your energy hoping they'll realize what they lost. You make sure that by the time they do, you couldn't care less. This is your moment, not to prove anything to them, but to prove something to yourself. That you are more than someone's backup plan, that you are never replaceable, that your value isn't determined by the short-sighted decisions of someone who didn't see it. And the best part, you don't have to do anything dramatic. You don't have to fight for their attention. You don't have to beg to be seen. You just have to do one thing: rise. Rise beyond the pain, beyond the doubt, beyond the need for validation. Because when you do, that's when they feel it. That's when the regret hits, not because you tried to make them regret it, but because you didn't need to. I want you to say this with me. I am irreplaceable. Write it in the comments. Show them, show yourself, show the world that you are done proving your worth. And make sure you stick around, because what's coming next will ensure they never stop thinking about what they lost. Asterisk, asterisk, number 2. Your silence will haunt them. The less you react, the more they wonder if they made a mistake. They expect you to fight for them. They expect you to chase, to question, to demand answers. Because that's what people do when they still care. That's what people do when they're afraid of being forgotten. But the moment you don't, the moment you go silent, that's when the panic sets in. It's human nature. People only start missing what's gone when they can no longer feel its presence. It's like a song they took for granted. You are always there, playing in the background, familiar, comforting, easy to ignore. But the second the music stops, the silence is deafening, and suddenly they realize it was their favorite song all along. That's the power of silence. It forces them to sit with their choices. It makes them question what they thought they knew. The best part, you don't have to do anything. No begging, no proving, no trying to convince them of what they lost. You just disappear, and trust me, they will notice. But I know what you're thinking. What if they don't? What if they never regret it? What if my silence doesn't matter to them? That fear is what keeps people trapped in the cycle of chasing. That's what makes them reach out when they shouldn't, break no contact when they were doing so well, and hand over their power without even realizing it. But let's be real. If someone can replace you and never look back, do you really want them? Do you really want to be with someone who would walk away so easily and never feel a thing? Of course not. That's not love. That's not connection. That's just someone who was never truly invested in the first place. But for most people, that's not how it works. The moment they sense your absence, the moment they feel that emptiness, where you used to be, that's when the overthinking starts. They wonder why you're not reacting. They wonder why you're not fighting to stay in their life. And the longer you stay silent, the more that doubt grows. Here's the truth. They thought they had power over you. They thought they could walk away and you'd still be there waiting, hurting, proving your worth. But when you remove yourself, when you refuse to play their game, that's when the tables turn. That's when they start to wonder if they made a mistake. It's like a fire. They expect you to fan the flames, to keep it burning, to keep reaching for them. But when you just walk away, when you let the fire die on its own, they feel the cold. And that's when they start wishing they had done things differently. The mistake most people make is trying to prove they were the better option. They try to show how much value they had. But the real secret, you don't prove your worth. You make them feel the loss. And listen carefully. This isn't about revenge. This isn't about mind games. This is about respect, self-respect. It's about valuing yourself enough to step away from anyone who couldn't see your worth when you were right in front of them. When they finally realize what they lost, when they reach out, testing the waters, trying to see if they still have a hold on you, that's when you make it clear. You've moved on, not through words, not through anger, just through your energy, your silence, your complete disinterest in going back. I want you to say this with me. I do not chase. I do not beg. I do not prove my worth. My silence speaks for me. Write it in the comments. Show them, show yourself. Show the world that you're done handing your power away. Stay with me, because what's coming next will ensure they never stop thinking about what they lost. Number 3, they expect you to chase. So do the opposite. The moment you stop fighting for them, they start fighting for you. They expect you to chase. They expect you to reach out, to ask why, to beg for an explanation. Because that's what people do when they still care. That's what people do when they're afraid of losing someone. But the second you don't, the second you stop giving them attention, that's when everything changes. At first, they feel powerful. They think they have control. They believe you'll crack. That sooner or later you'll come running back, because that's what always happens, right? People beg, people fight, people want closure. But when you do the opposite, when you vanish without a word, when you refuse to play their game, that's when their ego takes a hit. It's like a fire. They expect you to keep feeding it, to fan the flames, to keep it alive. But when you just walk away, when you let the fire burn out on its own, they feel the cold. Suddenly they don't feel as powerful as they thought. I know what you're thinking. What if they move on? What if they never care? What if I never hear from them again? That fear is why so many people chase. They can't handle the unknown. They can't sit with the silence. They need an answer, a sign, a moment that proves they still matter. But here's the brutal truth. If someone can walk away from you and never look back, then what exactly are you chasing? A ghost? A person who was never truly yours to begin with? That's not love. That's not connection. That's just someone who never valued you in the first place. For most people, that's not how it works. People always expect a reaction, and when they don't get one, when you cut off the supply of attention, validation, and effort, that's when they start to panic. They wonder why you're not trying to fix things. They wonder why you're not proving yourself. The longer you hold your ground, the more they start questioning their own decision. Did I make the right choice? Here's the truth. They don't want to admit it. People don't like to be forgotten. They don't like to feel unimportant. And when they realize you're not broken, when they see that you've moved on without them, that's when they feel the loss. The mistake most people make is trying to force regret. They try to prove they were the better option. But the real secret? You don't prove your worth. You become someone they can't ignore. That doesn't mean playing games. That doesn't mean pretending to be happy just to make them jealous. It means actually becoming the best version of yourself. It means shifting your focus away from them and back onto you. Instead of chasing, channel that energy into yourself. Hit the gym, work on your goals, build a life so full, so powerful, that by the time they come back, you won't even care. And when they do reach out, when they suddenly remember how much they miss you, that's when you make it clear. You're not waiting, you're not available, you're not playing their game anymore. I want you to say this with me. I do not chase. I do not beg. I do not fight for someone who walked away. Write it in the comments. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world that you are done proving your worth. Stay with me, because what's coming next will ensure they never stop thinking about what they lost. Number 4, level up so they can't recognize you anymore. By the time they look back, you won't be the same person they left. They walked away thinking you'd stay the same. They assumed you'd be stuck waiting, hoping, watching from the sidelines, because that's what people expect when they leave. They think their absence will break you. that you'll spend your nights replaying memories, wondering what you did wrong, that you'll sit in the ruins waiting for them to return. But what if instead of waiting, you evolve? What if instead of looking back, you level up so high that by the time they turn around, they don't even recognize you anymore? It's like a caterpillar, small, unnoticed, ordinary. That's how they saw you when they left. But what they never realized is that transformation was happening. Growth was happening. By the time they look back, you're not a caterpillar anymore. You're a butterfly, unreachable, untouchable, something far beyond what they ever imagined you'd become. And that's when it hits them. They didn't just lose you. They lost the best version of you, the version they will never have access to again. But let's be real. It won't be easy. Right now, the pain is still fresh. The temptation to check their social media, to wonder if they're happy, to compare yourself to the person they replaced you with. That's real. The fear of being forgotten, of never being enough, of watching them move on without looking back, that's real too. But that fear, it's a trap. It keeps you stuck in the past while they move forward. It keeps you focused on them while you remain the same. And that's exactly what they expect. They expect you to stay in the same place, drowning in doubt, too broken to rise. So you have two choices. You can stay where they left you, or you can become someone they never saw coming. Your revenge. Transformation. Not through words, not through games, not through trying to prove anything, but through undeniable growth. You hit the gym, not to impress them, but to build strength, confidence, and discipline. You improve your mindset, not to make them jealous, but to free yourself from the need for their validation. You build something new, not to show them what they lost, but to create a life so fulfilling that by the time they realize they want to come back, you won't want them anymore. Because here's the truth. They thought they left you, but the version of you they left doesn't exist anymore. You burned that version. You outgrew that version. And what stands in its place is someone too powerful, too evolved, too unstoppable to ever look back. When they finally check up on you, and trust me, they will, what they see will haunt them, not because you're trying to make them regret it, but because you genuinely don't care anymore. The person you are now would never tolerate the way they treated you. The person you are now would never settle for being someone's second choice. I want you to say this with me. I am evolving. I am rising. I am becoming someone they will never have access to again. Write it in the comments. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world that you are done being the person they left behind. Stay with me, because what's coming next will ensure they never stop thinking about what they lost. Number 5. Show up unbothered and unavailable. The worst punishment, making them feel irrelevant. They walked away expecting a reaction. They thought you'd crumble. They assumed you'd be out there, desperate, waiting for their return, because that's what most people do when they get replaced, right? They break down, look for answers, beg to be seen. But the moment they check up on you, the moment they try to confirm whether you're still hurting, and instead they see you glowing, thriving, moving as if they never existed, that's when the regret starts creeping in. It's like walking into a party, thinking you're the center of attention, only to realize that nobody even noticed you were gone. Meanwhile, across the room, there you are, unbothered, untouched, looking like $1,000,000, while they stand there with the mistake they thought was an upgrade. In that moment, they feel it. the sting of irrelevance. Here's what people hate more than anything: not being missed, not being needed, not being important anymore. And when they see that their absence didn't break you, when they realize you didn't just survive without them, you became better, that's when their ego takes the hardest hit. But let's be honest, there will be moments when you'll want to prove it. You'll want them to see how much you've grown. You'll be tempted to post, to flex, to drop little hints that you're doing just fine without them. Don't, because true power doesn't need to be announced. True confidence doesn't seek validation. The moment you start doing things for their attention, you've already lost. When you move forward without even thinking about them, that's when they feel it the most. I know what you're thinking. What if they never check? What if they never regret it? What if I really was forgettable? That's the fear talking, the last part of you that still wants their approval. But here's the truth. You don't need them to check. You don't need them to regret it. Because this isn't about them anymore. It's about you, your life, your growth, your next chapter. When they do reach out, and trust me, they will. What do they get? Nothing. Not bitterness, not anger, just distance, just indifference. Because now you've outgrown the version of you that ever cared about their attention. I want you to say this with me. I am untouchable. I am unbothered. I am unavailable. Write it in the comments. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world that you're done being someone's afterthought. Stay with me, because what's coming next will ensure they never stop thinking about what they lost. Number 6, they will check if you've moved on, so make sure you have. Nothing haunts a person more than realizing you replaced them with peace. They might act like they don't care. They might pretend that walking away was easy. But trust me, they will check. They'll stalk your social media, ask mutual friends about you, dig for any sign that you're still hurting, still waiting, still stuck in the past they left you in. Because that's what they expect. They assume their absence left a hole in your life. They assume you're still looking back, wondering where it all went wrong. And when they go searching for proof of your pain, when they expect to see you bitter, broken, and lost, what they actually find is that you're not bitter, you're better. And that's what shakes them the most. It's like walking out of a store, thinking you'll come back later to buy something you left behind, only to find the doors permanently closed, the shelves empty, the lights off. They thought they had time. They thought they could return when they felt like it. But by the time they realize they want back in, they don't even have access anymore. That's the moment regret starts to creep in. Here's what they never expected. You didn't just move on from them. You moved forward without them. And that's a different kind of loss. They thought they were irreplaceable. They thought they had left a mark on you that no one else could ever fill. But when they see you at peace, when they realize you found happiness that had nothing to do with them, that's when they feel the weight of their own choices. I know what you're thinking. What if I'm not there yet? What if I still miss them? What if I still feel the pain? That's okay. Healing isn't instant. Moving on isn't about pretending you don't care. It's about choosing every day to care about yourself more than the past. It's about making peace with what happened and refusing to let it define you. But here's what you need to remember. They will check, they will wonder, and by the time they do, make sure they find nothing of what they expected. No sad posts, No bitter rants, no desperate attempts to prove anything. Just you living, just you thriving, just you too far ahead to even notice if they're looking. And when they reach out, when they send that, "Hey, how have you been?" message, fishing for a way back in, that's when you smile because you already know the answer. I want you to say this with me. I am at peace. I am untouchable. I am no longer available to those who took me for granted. Write it in the comments. Show them, show yourself, show the world that you are done looking back. Stay with me, because what's coming next will ensure they never stop thinking about what they lost. Number 7, the more you ignore, the more they obsess. The less you care, the more they crave your attention. They walked away thinking they held all the power. They assumed you'd always be there, lingering in the background, waiting for a chance to prove your worth. For a while, maybe you did. Maybe you wanted to remind them of what they lost, to show them that you were still an option. But here's the truth. They don't regret what they think they still have access to. The moment you stop caring, that's when the shift happens. That's when the silence gets loud. Because people don't obsess over what's available. They don't chase what's chasing them. It's like a song playing in the background. You don't notice it until it stops. The moment it does, you suddenly realize it was your favorite all along. That's the power of your absence. That's the weight of your silence. I know what you're thinking. What if I want them to notice? What if I want them to miss me? That's the old version of you talking, the one that still ties their worth to someone else's attention. But listen closely. Ignoring them isn't about playing games. It's about understanding your value. You were never meant to beg for someone's time. You were never meant to compete for their attention. The second you step back, the second you stop engaging, the second you remove yourself from the equation, that's when they start thinking about you more than ever before. Because here's the truth. People always want what they can't have. Ever notice how you don't think about the people who chase you, but you can't stop thinking about the ones who disappear? That's because human nature is wired for scarcity. The less someone is available, the more valuable they seem. When you go silent, when you stop reacting, when they no longer have the ability to affect your emotions, that's when their mind starts working overtime. Why aren't they chasing? Why aren't they reaching out? Did they move on? Are they with someone else? The more you ignore, the more they obsess, the more they need to know. And I know what's coming next. What if they never come back? What if they truly forget about me? Here's my answer. Good. Let them forget. Let them think you're gone forever. Because if they can walk away and never feel your absence, then they were never meant to be part of your future anyway. But for most, that's not how it works. The silence starts to eat away at them. The unanswered texts, the lack of reaction, the fact that they can't read you anymore. It drives them crazy. They start checking your social media more than you ever checked theirs. They ask around about you, trying to figure out why you're suddenly so unreachable. That's when they feel it, the loss, the real, deep, permanent loss. Because by the time they realize they miss you, by the time they figure out they made a mistake, you won't even be interested anymore. And that's when they suffer the most, not when you were hurting, but when they realize you healed without them. I want you to say this with me. I do not chase. I do not beg. I do not seek validation. My silence is my power. Write it in the comments. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world that you are done proving your Number 8. By the time they regret it, you'll be gone. They thought you'd wait, but you've already outgrown them. They walked away believing they had time. They convinced themselves that if they ever missed you, if they ever wanted to come back, you'd still be there. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but eventually. 'Cause in their mind, you weren't the one leaving. They were. At first, they act unbothered. They pretend they don't care. They post, they smile, they live their life as if nothing changed. But here's what always happens. Time starts revealing the truth. At first, they feel free. Then they start to notice what's missing. They remember the things about you they once took for granted. The way you supported them, the way you understood them, the way you made them feel like they mattered. But by the time that realization hits, you're already gone. It's like someone knocking on a door they once walked out of, expecting you to answer, only to find the house empty, abandoned, and you've already moved to a mansion. Because here's what they never saw coming. You didn't just move on, you leveled up. You stopped waiting, you stopped wishing, you stopped hoping for their return. And in doing so, you became someone they no longer have access to. That's the real loss. Not just losing you, but losing the chance to ever have you again. I know what you're thinking. What if I still want them back? What if a part of me is hoping they regret it? Here's the truth. By the time they regret it, you won't even recognize the version of you that once cared. Moving on isn't just about time. It's about transformation. It's about growth. It's about waking up one day and realizing you don't want them anymore. Not because of revenge, not because of anger, but because you've evolved beyond the version of yourself that ever thought they were the best you could do. When they finally reach out, when they send that late-night text, when they suddenly miss you, when they try to see if there's still a way back in, that's when they'll realize the person they left behind doesn't exist anymore. I want you to say this with me. I am not waiting. I am not looking back. I am already gone. Write it in the comments. Show them, show yourself, show the world that you are done being someone's second choice. So folks, listen. They wanted control. They wanted to see you react. But the way to win, refuse to play. Detach, grow, thrive. And when they finally regret it, you'll be too far ahead to care. They thought they could break you. They thought you'd chase, that you'd beg, that you'd prove your worth. But instead, you disappeared. You transformed. And now they have to live with the reality that they lost someone irreplaceable. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.